What happens when you take a 400-page novel that everyone said was unfilmable and hand it to a 32-year-old director who's never made a hit movie? You get 3 hours of cinematic perfection that redefined what movies could be. But how did Francis Ford Coppola pull off this miracle? Francis Ford Coppola didn't just adapt Mario Puzo's novel, but created a film that feels more real than reality. Every frame looks like a Renaissance painting, every line of dialogue cuts like a knife, and every performance is so perfect, it's almost supernatural. Marlon Brando's transformation into Don Vito Corleone remains one of the greatest acting achievements in my opinion. The man stuffed cotton balls in his cheeks, spoke in whispers, and created a character so iconic that people still quote him at dinner parties. Now, it's puzzling that Paramount didn't want Brando anywhere near this movie. They thought he was box office poison. The studio wanted Ernest Borgnine or Danny Thomas for the role. Can you imagine? Coppola fought for Brando so hard he almost got fired multiple times during production. The executives thought a 32-year-old director was too young and inexperienced to handle a big-budget film. They were wrong about everything. Al Pacino's Michael Corleone represents one of the most depressing character transformations on film. He starts as a war hero who wants nothing to do with the family business and ends as something far more ruthless than his father ever was. Pacino was virtually unknown when he got cast, and the studio wanted someone more established. Another mistake that almost destroyed the movie. The casting process was out of this world. James Caan auditioned for Michael but got Sonny instead. Robert Duvall became Tom Hagen, even though he wasn't Italian. Diane Keaton got Kay despite being relatively inexperienced. Every choice seemed risky at the time but proved absolutely perfect in execution. Do you know that the entire production almost got shut down because the Italian-American Civil Rights League protested the movie before anyone had even seen it? They thought it would perpetuate negative stereotypes. Joe Colombo, an actual mob boss, led the protests. The irony is incredible. Real gangsters trying to stop a movie about fictional gangsters. Coppola's direction transformed what could have been a simple crime story into an epic about power, family, and the corruption of the American dream. He shot everything in dark, warm tones that make every scene feel intimate despite the epic scope. The cinematography by Gordon Willis earned him the nickname the Prince of Darkness because of his innovative use of shadows and natural lighting. The cultural impact is impossible to overstate. This movie didn't just influence other film, it changed how we think about crime, family, and loyalty. Every mob movie made since 1972 exists in the Godfather shadow. The Sopranos, Goodfellas, Casino, they're all descendants of what Coppola created. The production budget was $6 million, which sounds tiny by today's standards, but was substantial for 1972. Every dollar shows on screen. The wedding sequence alone involved hundreds of extras, authentic Italian food, and real musicians playing traditional songs. The attention to detail made everything feel completely authentic. Now here's the story that changed everything about how we see power, family, and the price of loyalty in America. Don Vito Corleone sits in his dark office on his daughter Connie's wedding day, listening to requests for favors and dispensing justice according to his own moral code. This opening sequence establishes everything we need to know about the world we're entering. Power flows through personal relationships, respect is earned through fear, and family loyalty trumps everything else. The wedding celebration outside provides a stark contrast to the business being conducted inside. While guests dance and celebrate, Vito handles the serious matters that keep his empire running. A baker needs help with immigration problems. A mortician wants revenge against men who attacked his daughter. Each request reveals how the Don's influence extends into every aspect of his community's life. Bonacera, the Undertaker, asks Vito to kill the men who hurt his daughter, but the Don refuses. Violence should match the offense, he explains, and murder would be disproportionate to assault. This scene establishes Vito's twisted sense of justice. He's not a mindless killer, but a man who believes in proportional response and personal honor. Michael Corleone arrives at the wedding with his girlfriend, Kay Adams, and his detachment from the family business becomes immediately apparent. He's a decorated war hero who wants to live legitimately, and he explains the family's activities to Kay with obvious discomfort. His line about his family being different from him becomes tragically ironic by the movie's end. Luca Brasi approaches the Don to offer his congratulations, and his nervous speech reveals the fear that Vito inspires, even in his most loyal followers. Brasi is a killer who's completely devoted to the Corleone family, but he's still terrified of saying the wrong thing to his boss. This dynamic shows how respect and fear intertwine in Vito's world. The family dynamics emerge through the wedding interactions. Sonny is hot-tempered and violent, quick to anger and slower to think. Fredo is weak and eager to please, desperate for his father's approval. Tom Hagen is the adopted son who handles legal matters and serves as consigliere. Each brother represents a different aspect of their father's personality. Connie's marriage to Carlo Rizzi sets up future conflicts that will tear the family apart. Carlo Carlo is handsome but weak, more interested in the Corleone name than the responsibilities that come with it. The wedding celebration masks the fact that this union will bring violence and betrayal into the family. The movie shifts to Hollywood when Tom Hagen travels to California to negotiate with studio head Jack Woltz about casting Johnny Fontane in a war movie. Woltz refuses the request with contempt, not understanding that he's dealing with people who don't accept no for an answer. His arrogance costs him dearly when he wakes up next to his prized horse's severed head. The horse head scene becomes iconic because it demonstrates the Corleone family's reach and ruthlessness without showing explicit violence. Woltz's terror upon discovering the bloody head in his bed reveals that he finally understands the kind of people he's dealing with. The message is clear: comply with requests or face consequences. Johnny Fontane gets the movie role, launching his comeback and demonstrating how the Don's influence extends across the country. This subplot shows how legitimate businesses and criminal enterprises intertwine, with favors and threats used to manipulate outcomes that appear perfectly legal on the surface. The peace meeting between the five families begins when Virgil Sollozzo approaches Vito with a proposal to enter the narcotics trade. Sollozzo needs political protection and financing, and he believes the Corleone family's influence with judges and politicians makes them ideal partners. But Vito refuses, creating a conflict that will consume the rest of the movie. Vito's refusal to enter the drug trade stems from his belief that narcotics will destroy the political relationships he's spent decades building. Judges and politicians will tolerate gambling and prostitution, but they draw the line at drugs. His moral stance against narcotics becomes both principled and practical. Sollozzo's frustration with Vito's refusal leads to the assassination attempt that changes everything. Vito gets shot multiple times while buying fruit from a street vendor, and the attack leaves him critically wounded. The shooting represents a declaration of war against the Corleone family and forces Michael to choose between his legitimate life and family loyalty. Sonny's reaction to his father's shooting reveals his violent nature and poor judgment. He immediately wants revenge without considering strategy or consequences. His emotional response makes him dangerous to enemies, but also dangerous to his own family because he can't think beyond immediate gratification. Michael's transformation begins when he visits his father in the hospital and discovers that the guards have been removed, leaving Vito vulnerable to another assassination attempt. Michael's quick thinking and courage save his father's life, but more importantly, they reveal his capacity for the kind of strategic thinking that the family business requires. The hospital scene where Michael pretends to be armed while facing down Sollozzo's assassins marks his entry into the family business. His hands shake with fear, but he doesn't back down. This moment of courage under pressure proves he has the temperament for the criminal life, even though he's never wanted it. Captain McCluskey's corruption becomes apparent when he breaks Michael's jaw for interfering with the assassination attempt. The police captain is on Sollozzo's payroll, demonstrating how deeply corruption penetrates law enforcement. McCluskey's involvement makes him a legitimate target despite his badge. The family war escalates when Luca Brasi gets murdered while trying to infiltrate Sollozzo's organization. His death removes the Don's most feared enforcer and sends a message that no one is safe. The fish wrapped in Brasi's bulletproof vest becomes a traditional mob symbol, meaning he sleeps with the fishes. Michael volunteers to kill Sollozzo and McCluskey during a supposed peace meeting, shocking everyone with his willingness to commit murder. His family doesn't believe he's capable of violence, but Michael understands that killing a police captain will make him a permanent part of the criminal world. There's no going back from that kind of action. The restaurant assassination becomes one of cinema's most tense sequences. Michael sits across from Sollozzo and McCluskey, making small talk while psyching himself up for murder. The gun hidden in the bathroom, the nervous conversation, and Michael's internal struggle create unbearable tension that explodes in sudden violence. Michael's execution of Sollozzo and McCluskey is swift and brutal. He shoots both men in the head at point-blank range, then walks out calmly while chaos erupts around him. This scene completes his transformation from war hero to cold-blooded killer, and there's no innocence left in his eyes. The aftermath of the restaurant killings forces Michael to flee to Sicily while the family war intensifies in New York. His exile protects him from retaliation, but also allows him to discover his cultural roots. Sicily represents the old-world traditions that shaped his father's values and methods. Sonny's affair with Lucy Mancini creates vulnerability that enemies can exploit. His sexual appetites and emotional volatility make him unpredictable and dangerous to his own organization. The contrast between Sonny's impulsiveness and his father's careful calculation becomes more apparent as the war continues. Carlo's abuse of Connie provides the trigger for the family's destruction. His beatings of his wife are designed to provoke Sonny into reckless action, and the strategy works perfectly. Sonny's protective instincts toward his sister override his judgment, making him vulnerable to ambush. The toll booth assassination of Sonny becomes one of the most shocking moments in cinema history. His violent death is brutal and excessive, with his body riddled with bullets until he's unrecognizable. The scene demonstrates the cost of emotional decision-making in a world where strategy determines survival. Michael's romance with Apollonia in Sicily shows him experiencing genuine happiness for the first time in the movie. Their courtship follows traditional customs, and their marriage represents Michael's connection to his cultural heritage. Yet, even in Sicily, violence follows him when a car bomb meant for Michael kills his young wife. Vito's recovery from his injuries and his negotiation of peace between the families demonstrates his superior political skills. He agrees to allow the other families to sell narcotics, as long as they keep it away from schools and don't involve children. His compromise preserves his relationships while ending the immediate war. The Don's meeting with the other family heads reveals his understanding that Michael killed Sollozzo and McCluskey. Vito accepts responsibility for his son's actions and agrees to guarantee Michael's safety if he returns from Sicily. The negotiation shows how family loyalty and business necessity intersect in the criminal world. Michael's return to New York coincides with his father's gradual retirement from active leadership. Vito begins teaching Michael the intricacies of running the family business, passing on decades of knowledge about managing relationships, maintaining respect, and making the hard decisions that leadership requires. The transfer of power from father to son becomes the emotional core of the movie's final act. Vito's garden scene with Michael establishes their relationship as both personal and professional. The Don shares his wisdom about trusting people, maintaining alliances, and recognizing threats before they become dangerous. Michael's marriage to Kay represents his attempt to maintain some connection to the legitimate world, but their relationship is built on lies and omissions. She doesn't understand his transformation, and he can't explain it without revealing details that would endanger them both. Their love becomes another casualty of the criminal lifestyle. The baptism sequence creates the movie's most powerful juxtaposition. Michael renouncing Satan while simultaneously orchestrating the murder of his enemies. As he stands in church promising to live a Christian life, his soldiers execute the heads of rival families. The irony is devastating and beautiful. The systematic elimination of the other family leaders demonstrates Michael's strategic thinking and ruthless efficiency. Each assassination is carefully planned and perfectly executed, removing threats while Michael maintains perfect deniability. He's learned his father's lessons about power and applied them with deadly precision. Carlo's confession and execution provides the movie's final revelation about family loyalty and justice. Michael discovers that his brother-in-law betrayed Sonny to his killers, and he handles the situation with cold calculation. Carlo's death completes Michael's transformation into something more ruthless than his father ever was. The final scene where Kay asks Michael about Carlo's death and he lies to her face shows how completely the criminal life has corrupted him. His ability to look his wife in the eyes and deny obvious truth reveals that he's become exactly what he once rejected. The door closing on Kay symbolizes her exclusion from his real life. Michael's acceptance of respect from his father's old lieutenants marks his complete assumption of power. The men who once treated him as Vito's civilian son now approach him with the same fear and reverence they showed his father. The transformation is complete, and Michael Corleone has become the new Godfather. The Godfather took a simple story about crime and family and turned it into an epic about power, corruption, and the price of loyalty. Michael Corleone's transformation from war hero to ruthless Don remains one of the most devastating character arcs in film history. He started as the son who wanted nothing to do with the family business and ended as something more dangerous than his father ever imagined. Did Michael make the right choices? Could he have protected his family without becoming a monster? What would you have done in his situation? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button.